Well, now that the Constitutional Court has found parts of the Executive Code of Ethics unconstitutional and invalid, let's talk about what this means for political parties. We'll reflect on the African National Congress because it's got the largest number of members of the executive who are running usually for contests at internal party conferences, including the big national one coming up at the end of the year. Let's speak to ANC Veteran Mavuso Msimang. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thankful for your time. Is this the level of transparency that's been long overdue, do you think, especially within your political home?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's an absolutely welcome development. It is long overdue. It should assist the ANC and any political party to actually enhance their accountability in running these things. I know that it is not, it still excludes, in the manner in which it has been, the judgment has been passed, people who are not bound by the Executive Ethics Committee. But I think that should be covered very quickly as well.
And when the President does then make these changes, as the Constitutional Court has now directed him to do, I mean, he's got a 12-month window within to do that. What do you think he should have in mind? What considerations should he bear in mind?
You know, actually, this should be very helpful to political parties. I mean, those who really are genuine about being democratic. I think the ANC, since you said I should talk about those, should have an arrangement for voting its leadership that takes place from the bottom up. You know, the ANC has branches, it's got zones, regions, and so on. You know, the ideal situation would be that anybody who wants to become a leader of the ANC at any level would have to first pass the test at branch level. You would have a number of branches come together to widen the area of election. There's things called zones, but an area that may bring together 4 or 5 more, much more branches. People who pass those hurdles then get to be known. The ANC ought to provide a platform for them to explain to people why they want to lead and what they would do if they were given the opportunity to lead. The scope would then be widened until you got the whole country membership of the ANC that is involved in these elections. So a person who eventually ends up in the National Executive Committee would have gone through all these stages and they would have been tested by a number of people.
And the key word from the Constitutional Court judgment was to do with transparency. Do you believe that there's anything such as an innocent campaign donation from anyone? Why would anyone, for example, back a candidate if they want nothing in return?
Well, I guess some of the things that people expect are good, are genuine. If somebody was a very rich person who wished to fund the party and their inclination was the enhancement of democracy, and they would say, I will vote for this party because I think they have a good policy towards the poor. There are people like that. There are philanthropists, there are people like that who do the funding. Yes, there is also a lot of people who do these things in return for something. You know, the saying that whoever pays the piper calls the tune applies very, very much in this instance.
With that in mind, then, it brings into question, isn't it, whether one wins a conference solely based on the confidence of branch delegates who are at conference or on how much budget they have, because even though largely unproven, vote buying is not a new allegation in the ANC, because they say if you've got money, then even branches can be convinced to look your direction, even if they weren't keen on you initially.
What I really want to say is that the ANC ought to ban any funding of its people if they want to who want to become leaders. They must create a platform for democracy if you raise your hand and say, I would like to be a leader, they really should, ANC should say, fantastic, you're welcome, but go through a certain process. And they would create a platform for everybody to show why they should be chosen. And it should be in the budget of the ANC to provide things like venues, to pay for venues, transport for people to go and convince their members about that. So money would not come in here at all. As long as you have got people campaigning, whether they disclose or not, they are at an advantage, over others who are not as wealthy as themselves. But secondly, that influence undermines the democracy of the democratic institutions. Branches should elect people based on what they understand them to be wanting to do for the organization. But if the chances, the opportunities are based on who has the money and can run around the country, fly, put people in hotels, that undermines the very democracy that the ANC believes in.
We were talking earlier with one of our guests about the grounds on which a donation may be frowned upon, right? It's not just about people who have proven to have been, let's say, convicted of crimes including corruption, but often people have a checkered reputation for whatever reason. And I wonder if you feel the leadership in the party, your comrades, often apply that level of scrutiny to which donations they accept. I mean, President Ramaphosa, when the matter kicked off, it was all to do with a R500,000 donation which came through Bosasa, through his son who had business dealings with him. And ultimately, it's actually led us to this point, even though the court had said the public protector did not have the jurisdiction, shall we say, to probe the CR17 campaign.
Yes, you see right now, this thing, electing members into leadership is really very open to abuse, open to influence, and not much is much of your ethics. Your ethical conduct doesn't count for very much. If you have strong backers who give you the opportunity to talk to more people and who even bribe others, as long as there is an opportunity to do that, you will have the problems that are being experienced even today. So I'm saying that two things that I have been here. The accountability is being required by the court. That's one side of the coin. I just believe that even without the court's intervention, if the ANC were to arrange its elections in such a way that there is no one who is privileged over others on the basis of the connections they have, and therefore, and put in place a process that excludes completely this business of running around at night and trying to influence people to vote for you. That system can be put in place.
Very briefly, as we conclude, this judgment is not going to apply retrospectively, which means it's not going to now force a disclosure of, for example, the donors to the CR17 campaign. Do you think that then is a missed opportunity in sealing that chapter and putting it to an end, given the many swirling questions about who donated and who didn't and why?
Well, it's past now. I mean, I have always spoken out about transparency, even over this particular issue. You can't you can't be told that somebody has been given millions of rand and you don't know who gave them those rand. I don't think there is much that can be done retroactively, and it is in very many ways a missed opportunity. But it's so important that going forward these things will not recur.
ANC Veteran Mavuso Msimang, good to speak to you, sir. Thank you.